The House will come to order. The Pledge of Allegiance this morning will be led by Tony and Tyson Tweed from Yale Elementary in Aurora, cousins of Representative Melton.
Will you please join us? To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which stands one nation, God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Kohler, please take the roll.
Representatives Becker, Buck, Buckner, Conti, Corum, Court, Representative Court,
Absent.
Del Grosso, Dorr, Duran, Representative Court is present. Everett, Representative Everett, Who? Everett absent. Absent. Exum. Representative Exum. Absent. Absent. Fields.
All right, come on this way, guys.
Fisher.
Appreciate it.
Foote. Garcia. Representative Exum is present. Gardner. Giroux. Janal. Hamner. Holbert. Hollinghorst. Representative Hollinghorst. Absent. Humphrey. Joshi. Kagan. Representative Kagan. Absent. Absent. Representative Kraft Tharp. Labuda. Landgraf. Representative Landgraf. Trump's present. Lawrence. Lebsock. Lee. May. McCann. McLaughlin. Representative Kagan is present. McNulty. Melton. Mitch Bush. Moreno. Murray. Navarro. Nordberg. Pabon. Peniston. Pedersen. Absent. Primavera. Priola. Rankin. Rosenthal. Rosenthal. Ryden. Representative Pedersen is present. Sane. Salazar. Representative Hollinghorst is present. Schaefer. Scott. Singer. Sonnenberg. Present. Stevens. Swam. Zabo. Tyler. Vigil. Waller. Williams. Wilson. Wright. Young. Speaker Ferrandino. Representative Zabo.
With 64 members present, 1 absent, a quorum is present. Representative Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the reading of the journal for Friday, February 21st, be dispensed with and it be approved as corrected by the chief clerk.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. It's good to be the speaker. The motion is adopted. Announcements and introductions. Representative Nordberg and Melton. Moreno. Like I just call him something else. Last time I think I called him Salazar by mistake. Nordberg, Moreno.
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, I think you mean Representative Wright.
Oh.
Representative Nordberg, you see, I got him right.
Never gets old. Mr. Speaker, thank you. Today we have members of the Jewish community as part of the Jewish Community Relations Council, a group of Jewish Colorado. So they're in the gallery this morning. Please welcome them to the chamber.
Representative Moreno.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. It's a pleasure to welcome members of Jewish Colorado here. As one of the legislators lucky enough to attend the Colorado Public Officials Mission to Israel in December, it's great to have them here and to continue to advocate on behalf of the Jewish and Israeli communities. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Representatives. Representative Ryden. No? Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have received permission to be excused this afternoon. Thank you.
Representative Ryden be excused as requested. Representative Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And today must be International Day at the Capitol. I want to welcome Jewish Colorado as well, but I'm here to recognize another group. I want to welcome representatives from the Mile High Japanese American Citizens League, the largest and oldest Asian American civil rights organization, and the Asian Pacific Development Center, which is a statewide community integrated health center. They are here for Colorado's first Asian Pacific Islander Advocacy Day, so please help me in welcoming this wonderful group of people. Thank you.
Representative Del Grosso, Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All right, members, listen up. I got a very important announcement about some amazing kids that came down here from Loveland, Colorado, Loveland High School. They brought their teacher with them, Mr. Denny Bain and Jed Coley. So if we can give a round of applause from some kids from Loveland High School.
Representative Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minority Leader may have more kids, but mine travel further. I have 11 visitors in the chamber from Rifle with their 2 instructors of the close-up program. Give a hand for Rifle.
Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I asked to be excused this afternoon through Wednesday. I've cleared it with both the Minority and Majority Leader.
Do you want to be excused longer? We can. That's all? We'll miss you. Representative Dorr will be excused as requested. Any further announcements or introductions? Seeing none, members, please return to your desk. We'll proceed to our next order of business, third reading of bills, final passage. Madam Majority Leader.
No Senate sponsor on that one yet. I'll lay over.
Okay. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to lay over House Bill 1055 and I move to lay over House Bill 1055 until Monday, March 3rd.
Seeing no objection, House Bill 1055 will lay over till Monday, March 3rd. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to lay over House Bill 1114 to the end of the calendar.
Seeing no objection, House Bill 1114 will be laid over to the end of the calendar. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to Senate Bill 52.
Senate Bill 52 by Senator Crowder, also Representative Sonnenberg, concerning actions taken to remediate soil erosion creating property damage.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move Senate Bill 52. I move for the approval of Senate Bill 52 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question before the House is the passage of Senate Bill 52 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives McNulty and Priola. Close the machine. With 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, Senate Bill 52 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1152.
House Bill 1152, Representative Lawrence L. Senator Sheffield, concerning passive surveillance records of governmental entities.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of House Bill 1152 on third reading and final passage.
Any discussion? Seeing none, the question for the House is the passage of House Bill 1152 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 2 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, House Bill 1152 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to Senate Bill 67.
Senate Bill 67 by Senator Aguilar, also Representative Singer, concerning aligning certain state medical assistance programs eligibility laws with the Federal Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of Senate Bill 67 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of Senate Bill 67 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative Giroux, Lee, and McNulty. Close the machine. With 37 aye votes, 28 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, Senate Bill 67 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of the House Bill 1184.
House Bill 1184, Representative V. Hill, Senator Grantham, concerning conservancy districts that are organized for the purpose of preventing floods.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of House Bill 1184 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of House Bill 1184 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representative Sane. Close the machine. With 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, House Bill 1184 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1193.
House Bill 1193, Representative Salazar, Senator Cafales, concerning requirements governing the imposition of a fee for the research and retrieval of public records in the Colorado Open Records Act.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of House Bill 1193 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of House Bill 1193 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representatives Lee, May, Priola. Close the machine. With 41 aye votes, 24 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, House Bill 1193 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1223.
House Bill 1223, Representative Cornwell, Senator Crowder, concerning the reclassification of Dolores County for the purpose of statutory provisions fixing the salaries of county officers.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of House Bill 1223 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of House Bill 1223 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representatives Gardner, Priola, Rosenthal. Close the machine. With 61 aye votes, 4 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, House Bill 1223 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of the House Bill 1265.
House Bill 1265, Representative Reynold, Senator Roberts, concerning the regulation of games of chance.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of House Bill 1265 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of House Bill 1265 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine. Members flip a coin and vote. Representative Buck. Close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 2 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, House Bill 1265 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1222.
House Bill 1222, Representative McLaughlin, Senator Schwartz, concerning modification in terms on which the county may issue taxes and private activity bonds on behalf of an eligible applicant for the purpose of financing a geothermal energy project on the applicant's property.
Nicely done. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of House Bill 1222 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of House Bill 1222 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote. Representative Gardner, right. Close the machine. With 39 aye votes, 26 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, House Bill 1222 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. Mr. Kohler, please read the title of House Bill 1228.
House Bill 1228, Representatives Peniston and Zabal, Senator Talk Drop, concerning the repeal of certain requirements for defensive driving schools attended in accordance with a court order resulting from violation of a law regulating the operation of a motor vehicle.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move for the adoption of House Bill 1228 on third reading and final passage.
Seeing no discussion, the question for the House is the passage of House Bill 1228 on third reading and final passage. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representatives Buck, Foote, and Ryden, close the machine. With 63 aye votes, 2 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, House Bill 1228 is passed. Co-sponsors. Close the machine. We will now proceed to our next order of business, General Order, second reading of bills. Representative Melton. Well done, Representative Melton. You've heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the House will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of general orders. Representative Melton will take the chair.
Will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for a bill being read at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested, as they are printed in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over upon motion of the Majority Leader, and the roll is relaxed. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1142.
House Bill 1142, Representative Del Grosso, Senator Grantham, concerning prohibition against the offsite electronic sale of lottery tickets by the Colorado Lottery Commission.
Representative Del Grosso, or Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I move House Bill 1142, and there are no committee reports.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1142, urge an aye vote. It is a simple cleanup bill that clarifies in statute the ambiguity of whether or not the lottery division can promulgate rules for online lottery tickets, and I urge an aye vote.
Representative Swan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I sat in finance as this bill was heard, and the executive director, who's relatively new, so unfortunately I don't remember her name, but they opposed the bill, and I asked them, and then as she was giving her testimony, she said one of the reasons that they oppose this bill is because it's important that they be able to follow current trends and allow people to begin gambling online with respect to the lottery. And she said it was particularly important since younger people are the ones that are most likely to be doing this kind of gambling activity. Well, members, pause with me for just a moment to think about what's going on in our economy. How many young people in our state right now, because they either have low-paying jobs or have no work at all, cannot afford to move out of their parents' basement? And here we are, the lottery commissioner comes in and says we need to get more young people involved in gambling so they can, without jobs or low-paying jobs, so they can go to their parents' basement and begin participating in the state lottery online. Members, there are many reasons I think this is a good bill, but that's certainly the one that got my attention. I think that we need to prohibit the state lottery from getting young people involved in this when they cannot afford to move out of their parents' basement. So I strongly urge a yes vote on this bill. And thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, we allow gambling in the state of Colorado pursuant to constitutional provisions and pursuant to statutes. And we lay down in the Constitution, in the statutes, where and what forms of gambling are allowed. What this bill does is it says before we expand the areas and types of gambling that are allowed in Colorado, we must come and pass a bill to expand, in this case, lottery ticket sales to online. This prohibition is not a prohibition for all time. It just simply, if you pass it, would say, before we increase the ambit of gambling, let's pass a measure by affirmative act of the Colorado legislature that we really want to expand lottery gambling to online. That's what this prohibition would do. It's just making sure that we proceed with deliberation if we expand gambling on lottery tickets online, and therefore I urge strongly an aye vote.
Representative Labuda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I was a no in committee, and I'm going to be a no on the floor on this bill. When I spoke with the Department of Revenue, and it was an extended conversation, I learned that the trend is going, as we all know, to doing everything more electronically. And they have no plans now to do this, but they want to be left open to explore anything that might come up as it develops from other states or from the companies that provide the gambling machines. Their concern is the way this bill is written. It could even hamper their ability to investigate any new technologies that might be helpful. Again, Department of Revenue has no plans yet to do anything like this, and I think this will unsaddle them tremendously. Thank you. I urge a no vote.
Mr. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, thank you for engaging in this debate. We did hear this bill in front of Finance Committee, and we heard it from a couple of different viewpoints. We heard about the expansion of online gaming, but we also heard some seriously conflicting testimony about whether the expansion of lottery sales online is online gaming. And I think the opinion from the Attorney General and our constitutional law experts that we rely on is that's simply not the case. This is, in a very simple way, a protectionist measure to simply stop the market forces, stop technology from emerging, and put the status quo in place. It is a step in the wrong direction, because what are we going to do next when technology again, sheds its opportunities upon a new industry. Are we going to say stop? We must not allow these opportunities to go forward. We must protect those who've already invested, which, by the way, they could take advantage of this opportunity as well, and that would be a good thing for all of Colorado. We could see a greater number of sales of lottery tickets, which expands in all of our districts and in all of our communities, new opportunities for the great outdoors and public lands and the things that we cherish and love about this state of Colorado. But instead, we're going to say we need to put some protectionist measures in place now. And it's simply the wrong philosophy to take in this day and age. This is 2014. We have parameters, we have safeguards, we have the ability to protect against online sales to underage minors. We know how to do that. Don't let those arguments be the red herring in your decision. This is about allowing any opportunities for technology to take place and looking at an industry to allow those market forces to happen. This is a free market solution. The bill would be a stop on that free market, and we must say no.
Representative Swan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, members, let's just cut to the chase. This bill prevents the expansion of gambling. That's what it does. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I have heard the lottery at one point described as a surtax on stupidity. And I think that's not far from the truth when they try to get people involved in this kind of gambling. And you look at the demographics of people who participate in the lottery. Now, I'm not an expert on that, but I have a feeling that it tends to attract low-income people looking for the somewhere over the rainbow. And I go back to my point that and the executive director of the lottery said that we're trying to appeal to young people. That's why she said this is a bad bill, because we need to expand to that younger generation that wants to deal online. And I'll reiterate the point I made earlier. These are people that in many cases, cannot afford to move out of their parents' basement, and we're going to get more gambling to that demographic. Members, that's a bad idea. That's embarrassing that the executive director of the lottery would come right out and admit it. And I support this bill, and just to go to the point Representative Pabon made, if we ultimately come to the point where we think this is a bad idea, this bill, we're not binding any subsequent legislature. They can come in and change this law. I hope they don't. But again, I think this is good policy. It's good for the state. And I don't think the further expansion of gambling is anything that is good for this state. So I urge a yes vote.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, we just heard from Representative Pabon, now Chairperson Pabon, about how there are protections against online gambling and our young people from accessing online gambling. Here is the protection that we have online against people underage. A box that says, are you 18 years of age or older? Check. Okay, now you can proceed. It would be illegal for you to proceed, but that is the protections. Now, if you think that is a protection to stop young people from actually buying these lottery tickets, then I guess you don't feel that that is a problem. But the reality is there is no way to stop people that are underage from accessing these. Now we heard, well, you might have to have a credit card, and since it's credit card, you can't, young people won't have credit cards. But there are things called debit cards. And as a father of teenagers who have debit cards, I know teenagers can access debit cards. So that also kills that argument as well. To another argument that was raised about how somehow this messes with the free market forces. Members, last time I checked, government is not a part of the free market. The lottery is a state-run monopoly. And so that is something that we have purview over, and we can decide how it is implemented outside of this building. There are several businesses that when the state decided to have a lottery that said, you know what, here's how we're going to run it. Several businesses, whether it was liquor stores, whether it was convenience stores, grocery stores, that all made investments on behalf of the state to say, look, we are going to partner with you and the state, and this is how we're going to implement the lottery. Now, the state wants to come back after the fact, and they admitted to it in committee, that they are already looking at ways to start moving this online. If people start buying this online, they start becoming direct competitors with all of those who have made the investment. And then they also become online gambling, and they become direct competitors with those who have constitutional right to have gambling. So if we want to have online gambling, that is something that needs to be taken back to the vote of the people and say, do we want to have this? But that is not right for it to be done in any other manner. So again, I urge an aye vote on 1142.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Assistant Majority Leader. I'd ask for an aye vote on this bill. It's a good bill. I will disagree with a couple of the comments the Minority Leader said, but in this show, a show of bipartisanship, I won't bring that up right now. But good bill, vote yes.
Representative Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to respectfully take issue with my esteemed Assistant Majority Leader on a couple of points. You know, gambling is not a free market. Gambling is one of those activities like purchasing alcohol, like buying pharmaceuticals, that we have decided as a community should be regulated. And we have guardrails around when and where and how and under what circumstances gambling is best allowed. This bill simply says, let's keep, yes, it does say keep the status quo, but it says keep the status quo until and unless we take a vote to expand. I think that that's a good thing to do, and I urge an aye vote. This is not a free market, never has been, and if we're going to start saying let's just let it go anywhere, we should take an absolutely deliberate vote to do so at some future point. But until that future point, when we decide to expand gambling, let's prohibit the expansion until we decide otherwise.
Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I rise in support of House Bill 1142 and certainly agree with Representative Del Grosso about underage gambling. I think the thing, though, that strikes me about this is not only the lack of accountability, but the idea that we have voted on certain areas of this state for gambling, and I honestly believe that we have very well set aside areas for that. I don't believe this bill is necessary. I don't believe that this is something that's going to enhance the state, but I do share a deep concern about underage gambling, about the way that we pay for these things. And so, members, I rise in support with Representative Del Grosso in support of 1142.
Representative Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Del Grosso, for bringing this bill. You know, members, in my time here in the legislature, my relationship with gambling and gambling bills has been fairly ambivalent. And that is because I don't think societally that we are well served by gambling. Now, the reality is games of chance will always exist. And I know the lottery is quite popular for a variety of reasons, but you know, members, I'm just going to say this out loud. I think it's a sleazy way to finance your government. I think it's a sleazy way to finance otherwise good causes, because we know what the statistics are. And I'm not going to tell you I never bought a lottery ticket. You know, it's kind of that deal of, you know, maybe I'll spend $1, but you know, $1 out of my pocket's just not very much, and I buy one about 5 times a year. But statistically and demographically, we know that those who are frequent players of the lottery are probably least able to do so. And I'm not a person who wants a nanny state. So the existence of games of chance strikes me as just one of the inevitable things. But really, does the state have to engage? Well, we do. And the people of Colorado have said so. So now the latest and greatest is, let's do it online. We will really, really clean up. And we can target the younger market because that's where they are. And we can get them hooked. Now, how many times have we had a bill, members? Let's make sure that we keep marijuana out of the hands of young people. Let's keep tobacco out of the hands of young people. Let's keep alcohol out of the hands of young people. But what the lottery would like to do is make sure that younger people have the opportunity to start playing the lottery sooner, earlier, and more frequently. This bill puts the brakes on that. Members, this is a major public policy issue. It goes to the core of what you think is appropriate for your government to do. And it is, you know, this notion of the free market, with respect, since when are we into the free market? And if that's the case, why don't we go into online pornography sales? Because it's the biggest moneymaker on the internet. Really? The free market? With respect, everyone, the things that are said down here that are not subject to any critical scrutiny are astounding to me, and this is one of them. Online lottery is going to be aimed first at those who are younger, and secondly, because I've known some people who have gotten in a lot of trouble with online gambling, aimed at people who are compulsive. And we don't have to do this as a government. I may not be able to stop it worldwide. I may not be able to change Las Vegas. And, you know, I can't change human nature, but the state doesn't have to encourage it and be a part of it. So let's at least put the brakes on here. Thank you, Representative Del Grosso, and I urge an aye vote.
Representative Swam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, I'll make this very brief. But members, think about the commercials you hear promoting the gambling towns here in the state. What do those commercials always end with? If you have a gambling problem, here's the number to give a phone call to. Well, here's what we're doing with this bill. We're trying to prevent more people from having a gambling problem and calling that helpline. So thank you, Representative Del Grosso, for carrying this bill, and I would strongly urge a yes vote. Thanks.
Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I very much respect the opinions of all the legislators who came into the well regarding this bill. I appreciate the conversations about the protections we need to put in place for our most low-income, most vulnerable populations, and apparently this is one of those protections. But I feel like it's a slippery slope, members. You know, where does the line get drawn if that's really what our role is as the legislature, is to protect those who otherwise have the dollars and cents and willingness to purchase online lottery tickets. Is it my job to tell someone you're wrong? That's bad behavior and you shouldn't do that anymore? I don't think that's the role that we have here in the legislature. I also, again, I think it's pretty clear, and with respect to my friends who say this is online gambling, it's not. We know it's not. It's a vast distinction between online lottery sales and pulling slot machines or doing craps or roulette or all those other things, which, by the way, there is a movement to do that as well, interestingly enough. So I think we should be very clear about where the delineation is. This is fully authorized. This is fully constitutional. And again, yes, the lottery is a state-run entity, but who are the primary benefactors of the entity? It's our private businesses. I mean, we license the ability to sell these tickets through these businesses. So it's not quite as black and white as it might appear. And I think when we have companies, and I'm familiar with at least one, if not more, who are interested in expanding into this space, we shouldn't stop them from doing that. To put a halt on technology and market and industry is the wrong role of the legislature. And so I ask you to carefully consider this, think about these arguments, think about the protectionist measures that are put in place, and let's let the free market flow, let's let technology happen, and let's put this bill to bed. Ask for a no vote.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, again, I urge an aye vote. I think still the most disturbing piece in this entire process through this bill was the original intent of this bill was to kind of slow down the department from promulgating rules at looking at this, and through testimony in committee, we found out that they actually had already started down that process. So without engaging the other gaming partners, without even letting them know, without letting all of the affiliates and the retailers out there know that they were planning on pulling the rug from underneath them, that is what we heard. So that to me is the most disturbing thing, that the process has already been started down the road by the lottery division. So with that, I urge an aye vote, and I will call division.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1142? Seeing none, the question before us, members, division has been called.
Can I call it back? Well, you told me.
Members, the question is the adoption of House Bill 1142. A division has been requested. All those in the chamber not entitled to vote, please be seated. All those in favor of the adoption of House Bill 1142, please stand and remain standing in one place until the count is taken. Members, more than 33 have stood for the adoption of House Bill 1142. House Bill 1142 is adopted. Mr. Kohler, can you please read the title of House Bill 1163?
House Bill 1163, Representative Holding-Horsdall Center Heath, concerning clarification of the cap imposed on the enterprise zone investment tax credit.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1163, and there is no committee report.
To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill amends language that was added by mistake during the 2013 legislative session that could interfere with the General Assembly's intent in adopting House Bill 131142. That's the essence of this bill, and I ask for a yes vote.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, as Representative Madam Majority Leader has said, that this fixes a mistake from last year. Well, this is a chance to actually not fix that mistake and do what should have happened last year. To fix a mistake, let's see what we're doing here. We are going to add $20 million over the next 2 years in added tax to the business community in enterprise zones. So by lowering the cap, that actually makes more tax that businesses in the enterprise zones have to pay. And so although that was the intent of the bill last year to say that, you know, the cap that we put on was supposed to go forever, I think that it gives us a chance to actually say, well, let's let what happened last year with the cap happen, but there's no reason that we have to continue it. And so that would provide some much needed relief for our businesses that are desperately trying to create jobs in these enterprise zones. I will offer L002 and ask that it be displayed.
Can you move that amendment, Mr. Minority Leader?
Okay, I will move L002.
Thank you. The amendment's been moved and properly displayed to the amendment.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, what this amendment does, if you'll notice, as we've had several conversations about this already, there is what's out there now, enhanced rural enterprise zones. So let me read what the criteria is to be considered an enhanced rural enterprise zone. It is a county with unemployment rate greater than 50% of the state average. So that's pretty significant. The county per capita income is less than 75% of the state average. The county population growth rate is less than 25% of the state average. Total non-resident assessed value ranks lower than half of all counties. So members, there are 28 counties out there now that qualify as an enhanced rural enterprise zone. These are our counties that are not seeing the economic uptick that a lot of those here in the Front Range are seeing. We heard from the speaker's speech, we heard from the governor's speech about how the economy is flourishing. Unemployment rates are down, businesses are hiring again. But in these 28 counties, they are not seeing that. And so when we talk about we have to look after all of the state, not just those here on the Front Range, we are taking away a potential tool for those counties, as I stated, that are in very economically distressed areas. And we are taking away a tool from them to potentially bring in a business that could bring high-paying, good-paying jobs, put people to work, build the tax base in those communities. Now we might hear that, well, this doesn't affect anyone that's currently there. Well, that's true, but that doesn't mean that somebody potentially might want to come there. And this is a tool that they could use to say, look, we don't have the cap here in our areas. This is a tool that they could use to bring in a high-paying job. Think of just what one company coming into those counties, what it would mean to those folks out there in rural Colorado. So whether or not you still think the cap is a good thing or not, we can debate that all day long. But let's at least say, you know what? Let's have it not apply to those folks. And again, I'll just highlight the top two. Unemployment rate greater than 50% of the state average. This is an entire county. Per capita income is less than 75% of the state average. So these are counties that are struggling. These are counties that are saying, look, don't take tools away from us that could potentially attract business here. Help us out. And we did hear that in some opening day speeches from some folks that stood up there that talked about wanting to help rural Colorado, wanting to help the entire state of Colorado. And this is a way to say, look, we can help those areas. We can help set you up for success. Is there any guarantee that any business will come there? No. But at least sets up the framework for success for those folks in those economically distressed areas. So I urge an aye vote on L002.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me. I have a bit of a cold, so you'll have to pardon me. In any case, there was a similar amendment offered in Finance Committee, and in Finance Committee, that amendment was ruled out of order. I think it's a close call. I would rather just debate this issue and provide you with some additional information on why I believe what we did last year and what is working very well this year is a good thing and doesn't and helps the agricultural and rural community. So I'm simply going to just give you some sense of why let me start by saying I think this is a rehash of something that we spent a lot of time on last year that was called for by any number of people in the community, including a task force that was organized and felt that it was very important to do something about enterprise zones. The essence of the bill last year and what we are trying to do to make sure that, in fact, what was intended last year is enforced by this bill was to make enterprise zones more effective and more efficient. What other folks wanted to do, and there were a number of them, they just simply wanted to do away with enterprise zones altogether. And I think that would be, and I stated that many times last year, would be a huge mistake for this state. Enterprise zones were organized originally to help rural and urban areas where there was serious underdevelopment, lack of jobs, the median average of income was lower, and all of those things came together with a very good program that over the years got seriously off track. And there were large corporations, none of which are in the rural area, that were taking really millions of dollars out of this program. And it was questioned as to whether those organizations would really be involved one way or another. And there was a lot of thought that they would be. And for instance, in 2010, companies filed requests for tax credits totaling $75 million for making capital investments or training programs in enterprise zones. Those companies created 564 jobs, which is a cost of nearly $133,000 per job. That is not a very efficient nor a very effective program. And what this program also did was it kept the funds that otherwise you might be able to invest in this program, particularly in times when we had economic downturn, from being used in the appropriate places, and let me emphasize, the places that would help rural Colorado, agricultural Colorado, the most. And what was done is that we added additional money because of the savings to the general fund revenues. We added more money to some very important programs to those people. The new business facility employee credit, which was a $500 credit for each new business employee, was increased to $1,100 for each new qualified employee beginning in 2014. The OEDIT, the Office of Economic Development and International Trade, has told me that they are getting huge response from this new additional money, and that response is primarily coming from small businesses in rural areas and particularly small agricultural businesses. It has been a huge boon to them, and there is a big interest in that. The same is true for the employer-sponsored health insurance credit. That increased the credit by fivefold, from $200 to a credit of $1,000 for each new qualified employee beginning in tax year 2014. There's been a tremendous amount of interest, and this will create jobs. Just putting a lot of money into the top, let me tell you, the history is it doesn't trickle down. So I ask for a no vote on this amendment. That moves us backwards. It doesn't accomplish anything, and with the program in place that we now ensure by changing this language, we will continue to have growth, particularly in rural and in underdeveloped urban areas. I ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, Madam Majority Leader did reference a commission that studied enterprise zones. And she's absolutely right. There were some things that were recommended by that commission, and it put some money into some of those other credits, or that bolstered some of the credits that she talked about. But if you remember since she brought it up from last year, I'll continue on that. If you remember the total cost of that, and I looked it up for everybody so you don't have to go dig through your iPads to find it, the amount of money that we're reinvesting in those credits is $2.5 million. $2.5 million. If you look at your fiscal note, there's $20 million over the next 2 years that we're going to bring in revenue. So $20 million, so 2.5 over 2 years, so $5 million. So 20% of the money that we receive from putting the cap on actually goes back into those programs, which the Office of Economic Development has said that they've gotten a huge response from. This amendment does not stop that. We're bringing in $20 million over the next 2 years. $5 million is going towards those programs. That leaves $15 million that are going into the general fund. This amendment does not stop those programs in which Madam Majority Leader just referenced. So if you're saying, well, I need to oppose that because we have to stop all of the good things that the cap put into place last year, this amendment does not do that. Those folks in the enhanced rural enterprise zones, those folks in rural Colorado, will still be able to take and enjoy all of those other credits that are in the enhanced rural enterprise zone. The only difference is, if you're a company X and you're looking at investing, they will now take a second look at those folks in the enhanced rural enterprise zone and say, look, there is no cap. And to get over $750,000, you have to be a very large investment. Like some kind of a methane capture industry, or maybe a wind farm. We've heard that there's large wind farms out on eastern plains that come and invest, and that is large investment. So basically what you are doing with this amendment, if you support it, you would potentially be allowing those folks in enhanced rural enterprise zones, those with high unemployment and low wages, be able to compete for those large businesses. You may not think that those counties need to compete, and that would be why you would vote against it. But if you want to support rural Colorado and you want to allow those counties to compete, I would urge an aye vote on L002.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And let me just point out that the money that goes into the enterprise zone work is general fund money. And that general fund money comes from companies, sometimes very large ones, and in this case, 75 to 80% of them in about 10 companies. And this is a tax expenditure, which means that those folks get to write themselves a check, basically. They write themselves a check with a tax credit that can be very, very high. And that is money that otherwise would come into the general fund. We need to be looking at these kinds of programs just like we would an expenditure in the budget. So I don't understand how this is an added tax. This is a tax credit that is a tax expenditure. It means if these folks get millions of dollars in a tax credit, that comes out of schools. Basically, that's our biggest expenditure. So the fact of the matter is that this is a slippery slope. We do an exception here, we do an exception there, and all of a sudden, we're still spending $133,000 per job. I'm asking for a no vote on this amendment. I don't believe it's a smart thing to do, and it does not help the rural areas. If there is a company that wants to invest big time in a rural area, there is an exception already in last year's bill that will handle that for them. OEDIT will work with them, and they can get that exception on an individualized basis. I ask for a no vote.
Seeing no further discussion on Amendment L002, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? No. L002 fails. To the bill. Seeing no further, Madam Majority Leader. Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I would urge a no vote, on 1163. Members, when you look at the fiscal note and you look at state revenue, general fund, $20 million over the next 2 years, where does that money come from? It comes from people that employ people. It comes from people that put people to work. It comes from people that give people paychecks. So in turn, those people can take those paychecks home, pay their mortgages, pay for school supplies, pay for whatever it is to make their family operate. Let's make no mistake. This money comes from somewhere, so it is revenue to the state to the tune of $20 million. If you support this, now without the last amendment, it also applies to rural Colorado as well, and how somehow this helps rural Colorado boggles my mind. But if you support this, this is a $20 million tax increase on business, those that employ people over the next 2 years. So with that, I would urge a no vote on 1163.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I ask for a yes vote on this bill, and I think we are now repeating ourselves, but the fact of the matter is that the enterprise zone, the way it was reformed and the way the task force wanted to reform it, is in fact helping rural people and enterprise zones in urban areas where there is underdevelopment by providing for the important things for them. And let me remind you that the jobs are created in Colorado a huge majority of them by small businesses that employ less than 100 people. The vast majority of those businesses over the entire history of this program have not gone over about $100,000 in claimed income tax credit for this. This is not money that would otherwise go to these businesses. The money that is expended in this program is money that they would otherwise have to pay in income tax, which goes directly to the general fund. I'm not going to belabor this. I think this is rehashing an issue that was solved last year and is working very well for the people of the state of Colorado. And we cured the issue of $75 million going to create 564 jobs at a cost of nearly $133,000 per job. I ask for a yes vote.
Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor of House Bill 1163 say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? No. House Bill 1163 passes. Mr. Kohler, please read the title to House Bill 1028.
House Bill 1028, Representative Sonnenberg, also Senator Roberts, concerning a limitation on the United States' ability to impose conditions on a water right owner in exchange for permission to use land.
Representative Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1028 and the report from the House Agriculture, Livestock, Natural Resources Committee.
To the Ag report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And basically what the Ag Committee report did is put some clarification on, added the word rebuttably, and then also clarified that nothing inhibits grants, expands, or contracts the legal authority of the United States. Ask for a yes vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of the Agriculture, Livestock, and Natural Resource Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Agriculture report is passed. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this bill basically does the same thing that it did last year and tells the federal government that you cannot basically require as a condition of a permit on a lease to sign over your water rights. I would ask for a yes vote.
Seeing no further, Representative Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'm sure it won't come as any surprise to Representative Sonnenberg that I'm rising to oppose this bill for a number of reasons. First of all, I think first and foremost, it's not needed. We, last year, as he mentioned, ran a bill similar to this, but we also ran a resolution, which I think is actually a better solution to the problem or the perception that there's a problem out there that needs to be fixed. I actually don't believe that there's a problem that this bill is trying to fix because the Federal Land Management Agency that was the subject of this, the United States Forest Service, has been working for well over a year to revise and reform its directive for issuing special use permits on Forest Service land. We don't yet know what the content of that directive is, so I think it's premature to run a bill trying to preempt the ability of the Forest Service to implement this directive. So just on that score alone, I believe that the bill is not needed and that we shouldn't be making major changes to Colorado water law just on the basis of that, of this issue. I also just want to remind members that last year's bill, there actually are quite a number of differences between this bill and last year's bill, but our Office of Legislative Legal Services issued an opinion about the bill last year indicating that it was a preemption of federal law and was, in the opinion of Mr. Morris, our Office of Legislative Legal Services staff person, unconstitutional. So I asked Mr. Morris if he would opine on the current bill and see if his opinion had changed. And in essence, even though this bill is different and tries to do different things than last year's bill, his conclusion was that this is still an unconstitutional preemption of federal law. And the rationale for this is just that this bill is a little bit more nuanced than last year's bill, but in essence what Mr. Morris says is that, and let me just read from his opinion. If we presume that the U.S. Forest Service permit term is valid under federal law, it's unlikely that a court would uphold a state law that invalidates a property right that is created pursuant to that permit term. In other words, a state cannot do indirectly against the United States that which it cannot do directly. So the issue of preemption is still a problem for this bill. So I've already talked about why the bill isn't needed, but and I should point out that as of last week, I was talking to a member of the Ski Country USA or Ski Areas Association down in the lobby who said basically the ski areas are neutral on this bill. And I should mention also that even though this issue started with an issue with ski area permits, this is much broader. It goes to all federal land management agencies, any entity or agency of the federal government. So Mr. Morris also points out in his most recent memo that not only is this probably unconstitutional on the basis of preemption of federal law, but it's also a violation of the state constitutional prohibition on against special legislation. So what special legislation is that it would be, for example, a law that pertains to only one person but not other people that are engaged in the same activity. And so essentially what this bill does is it singles out the federal government, the United States, but it doesn't mention anything about private landowners or the state land board, for example. So in conclusion of Mr. Morris's opinion, it says that by also there's a prohibition in one of the definitions of special legislation is that it attempts to regulate the practice of the water courts. And he finds that House Bill 1028 is special legislation because it attempts to regulate the practice of the water courts. And it applies specifically and only to water rights obtained by the United States. Therefore, two sections of Section 25's provision might apply to House Bill 1228. The prohibition in the first sentence on special legislation regulating the practice of the courts of justice, and the general prohibition against the second sentence. In all other cases where general law can be made applicable, no special law shall be enacted. Now that's in our state constitution. So I have a lot of deep concerns about us passing legislation here that violates our own state constitution. We all took an office to uphold the state constitution as well as the federal constitution. And so I would ask for your no vote and ask that you not violate your oath of office by voting yes for this bill.
Representative Coram.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I stand in strong support for this bill. You know, we heard Representative Fisher give his reasoning why we shouldn't vote for it, and I want to give you some reasons why we should. And I'm I really thank Representative Sponsor Sonnenberg for adding to this bill, because I want you to all go and do a little research. I know you all know how to do Google. So what I want you to do is I want you to Google BLM Nevada water rights, Nevada rancher. And what you will find is that there was a lawsuit because the BLM required the water rights from a rancher in order to renew his permits. The rancher sued, and he won in federal court. And frankly, it was a spanking of the federal government. The judge actually accused the BLM of a RICO violation in their strong-arm tactics. We don't need that. We have Colorado water rights priority system that has been here forever, since before we were a state, I believe. It goes about 150 years. We can use that. You know, talk about the ski areas. The Powderhorn ski area is the ones that initiated this lawsuit originally because of a demand that their water rights be turned over to the federal government. So, yes, the federal government has backed off of this, but they're not backing off completely, they're rerouting. There was a bill basically mirrors what we're doing in Colorado that was introduced into Congress by Jared Polis and Representative Scott Tipton. That bill came out of committee, and as I understand it, is probably going to be before the full House floor this week. We must stand, we must protect Colorado, and that is why this bill came out of committee 11-2.
Representative Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And at the risk of sounding like a lawyer, it's ironic Representative Fisher and I are talking about Supreme Court cases, and I don't have a law degree. Might never even played one time. So he brought up a very valid point with regard to Article 5, Section 25 of our Colorado Constitution, and cited Mr. Morris. Let me cite you another opinion that comes from that. And I won't restate what he said on what Section 25 does, but it also, in an opinion, it says, and this opinion comes from an interrogatory propounded by Governor Roy Romer on House Bill 91, Special Session 1005, and where he says, thus, where an enumerated case is implicated, the General Assembly must pass general legislation. However, if no enumerated prohibition is implicated, the question of whether a general law could be made applicable is within the discretion of the General Assembly. Let me repeat that. Is within the discretion of the General Assembly and will not be disturbed absent an abuse of that discretion. With that said, members, I'll stick with the constitutional aspect. And let me just give you some examples of what we're talking about. The first example is an act concerning the state's acceptance of legislative jurisdiction from the United States of America, that one entity we're talking about, over the real property compromising the United States Army Garrison Fitzsimmons located in the city of Aurora. Same scenario. Concerning the ceding concurrently legislative jurisdiction over the Air Force Academy property in El Paso County to the United States of America. Concerning concurrent legislation jurisdiction over the real property constituting the Buckley Air Force Base. Let's be a little more specific, and let's go outside of the United States government. Concerning the deletion of requirements for a final permit of all wells withdrawing designated groundwater from the Denver Basin Aquifer. concerning Monument Lake Dam, and in connection therewith, the clarification and transfer of ownership of the dam. I can go on and on. Let me suffice it by including the one most recently, in which many of you on that side of the aisle voted for in 2009, considering state lands sought to be acquired by the federal government associated with the expansion of the Pinyon Canyon maneuver site. Essentially, identical type of scenarios. You also may want to look at what we passed this morning. We passed specific legislation to one county with regard to their elected officials. Is that a violation of our Constitution?
Representative Sonnenberg to this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just trying to cite examples of how we have done this in the past, and it's deemed constitutional. I appreciate you bringing me back to the issue at hand. The issue at hand, ladies and gentlemen, it's not, quite frankly, our responsibility to determine whether this is constitutional or not. I have laid out arguments in which it is. Let me also argue why it is needed. Representative Coram so eloquently explained what has happened in other states with regard to these issues. I would also argue that even though that may be the camel's nose under the intent, we, as a Colorado legislature, need to be proactive with regard to this issue, and I would indeed ask respectfully for your yes vote. Thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chair.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1028? Representative Dorr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be brief. Representative Sonnenberg did a good job of laying out some of the legalities around why this legislation is appropriate and legal. I think it's safe to say that 1028 does not implement an enumerated class and is rationally related to the legitimate state interest. Thus, it is not a piece of special legislation. As far as the federal preemption goes, I know that was spoken about too. And it's not currently preempted by federal law because it addresses adjudication and administration of water rights under state law, which applies to the United States as a recognized right of water, including those on public land. And that comes from a 30 U.S.C. 51 as well as 30 U.S.C. 52, which lays out that these are the terms and that when those terms are set forward in a way that it's state law, the federal law will follow. So as long as 1028 is limited to the changes in the administration and adjudication of water rights, there's no argument against the preemption. And you can go to the McCarran Amendment to clarify that. So I think this is a good piece of legislation. We need it as good for the state of Colorado, and it's a working relationship that we've seen legally for many years. Ask for a yes vote.
Representative Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll be brief. My colleagues have made the legal points on both sides of the argument very well. And suffice it to say, there's not a clear definition on constitutional issues. We can argue both sides. I'd like to make a little bit different point, and that is our general relationship with our partners, the Forest Service in this case, BLM, other federal agencies. We will, on many occasions, confront issues where we must deal with our partners. 90% of the time, it's a very fruitful interaction. The federal government owns 30% of the land in Colorado, 70% in the area I represent, 90% in some counties. So these issues will sometimes require a very detailed and comprehensive interpretation of those legal issues governing this partnership. This is one of those issues. We need to take those actions, and if they have to be later interpreted in terms of constitutionality of state and federal preemption, that's fine. But we have to take positions as the state in order to set up a better partnership, a better relationship. And we have already, because this issue has been discussed in our committees and in our legislature. The Forest Service has already changed their position, gone through thoughtful analysis, so it makes a difference. So my argument is not on the legal issues. My argument is on the need for bills like this that define that relationship and push us forward to a better partnership. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things that happened in our committee meetings is we had a lot of testimony from the U.S. Forest Service. Now, in my district is a ski area known as Powderhorn Ski Area, and there was a lawsuit that was filed against those water rights when that was sold to the Gart family over here in Denver. We asked in committee a very specific question. If you were not wanting the water, why would you file a lawsuit? And we did not get in my opinion, an honest answer. You don't take somebody to court if you don't want something. And that concerns me greatly, and I think that just reinforces very much so why we need to pass this legislation. Because the federal government did not have a right to that water, but yet they sued for that water and then denied that they did that. So I think we need to be very, very aware of this and make sure we pass this type of legislation to keep the federal government in check. Thank you. I ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1028? Seeing none, the question before us is the passage of House Bill 1028. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The ayes have it. House Bill 1028 passes. Madam Majority Leader. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
You've heard the motion. Seeing no objection, the committee will rise and report.
The House will come back to order. Mr. Kohler, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Mr. Speaker, Committee of the Whole begs leave report is under consideration. Following attached bills being second reading thereof makes the following recommendations thereon. House Bills 1028 amended, 1142, 1163 passed on second reading in order. Gross placed on the counter for third reading final passage.
Representative Melton. You've heard the motion. There is an amendment at the desk. Mr. Kohler, please read the Del Grosso amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Representative Del Grosso moved to amend the report of the Committee of the Whole to reverse the action taken by the committee in not adopting the following Del Grosso Amendment L002 to House Bill 1163 to show that said amendment passed and that House Bill 1163 as amended passed.
Representative Del Grosso.
I move the Del Grosso Amendment to the Committee of the Whole.
Please proceed, Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And members, it was pretty noisy in here, and there was a lot of side conversations, and maybe folks were kind of distracted with a lot of what was going on, and they really weren't fully sure what this amendment did. This amendment, and Representative Labuda excluded, I know she knows. This amendment we have in the state of Colorado, which is what's called an enhanced rural enterprise zone. And in case you missed it, I will go over the criteria again for that. To qualify to be an enhanced rural enterprise zone, your county has to have an unemployment rate of greater than 50% of the state average. So it's pretty high. County per capita income less than 75% of the state average. So obviously wages aren't up to par with the rest of the state. And county population growth rate less than 25% of state average. So these are areas where they are definitely not growing. And as I mentioned before and was stated several times in certain speeches about how the economy in Colorado it's growing. Unemployment is down, business is booming. That may be true in certain parts of the state. But under this dome, we have to look at the entire state of Colorado. There are several areas of our state that aren't enjoying the uptick in the economy or the unemployment rate moving down. We have several counties in our state that, quite frankly, are still struggling. They are seeing businesses close. They're seeing large industry going out of business, and that decimates their entire economy. And if we're looking at trying to truly help those folks in rural Colorado, this is a way that we can help them out. This is a way that, say, if you vote for this, caps are still in place in other areas, but in those 28 counties that are now classified as enhanced rural enterprise zones, you can do a lot to help them be competitive to bring in large employers. Now, the argument was stated, well, this doesn't apply to anybody that's there currently. That's true. But that doesn't mean that there isn't potentially somebody in the future that wants to come in and move in. And this would give those 28 counties the ability to try to bring in some of those large employers to help offset their higher than average unemployment. Maybe bring in high-paying jobs to help bolster their lower than state average per capita income, and maybe stop the steady flow of citizens moving out of those counties. Members, if you're going to put a cap on, obviously I don't agree with the cap, but at least have it not apply to those poorest of poor counties. And that is what this amendment does. I urge an aye vote.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I urge a no vote on this amendment. I don't believe in passing amendments to bills that do absolutely nothing. And that's what this amendment does. It does absolutely nothing. There are companies and agricultural businesses and other businesses like that in these enhanced rural enterprise zones that are benefiting greatly. Information from OEIDT says that they're benefiting greatly from, in fact, what the bill that we're trying to make whole here has done already in terms of the amount of money that those small businesses can get for new employees, and they're creating new employees, for the amount of money that they can get for health insurance provided to their employees. These are things that are happening that we know are working. Just exempting businesses in this area from a $750,000 cap that, in fact, nobody will ever get to in these areas. Right now, all of them are under $100,000. If, in fact, there is a company that wants to locate in an enhanced enterprise zone and they need extra tax incentive, there is provision to do that. There is a way to get that done and to create all those high-paid and all of those jobs that the minority leader was referring to. There's a way to do that. But I would venture to say that there are lots of good jobs being created right now because of the increased amount in credit that we have given in those enterprise zones for the small businesses, the small agricultural businesses that really need these credits. Let me remind you that the enterprise zone system was on the rocks. And it was on the rocks because the trickle-down approach for the really large corporations that didn't even exist in the enhanced rural area, they were getting millions of dollars of credit under this program. And in 2010, we figured out how much that was per job. That was about $133,000 per job. That is not an effective or efficient program. This program was made more effective and efficient. This amendment is not needed, and there is a lot of benefit now going to rural Colorado because of the bill that we are making a small minor correction to. I ask that we not rehash this issue one more time, and I ask for a no vote on this amendment.
Representative, Mr. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I would beg to differ that rural Colorado probably appreciates us rehashing this conversation. The credits that the majority leader spoke of that's benefiting small businesses in rural Colorado now will not change as a result of the passage of this amendment. This isn't my words, this is a fiscal note. Look at how much revenue we're bringing in. And then you have to look at last year's fiscal note on that bill to see how much is going out in those other credits. 80% of the money from this cap is going into the general fund. So those extra credits that small businesses, some in rural Colorado that she referred to, that this is helping, they will still be helped because the cap will still be in place for the rest of the counties in the state. So the money will be there. Those credits are not going to disappear. And she's right. She said this amendment does nothing because those large businesses aren't going to want to move to those counties anyway. If you don't pass this amendment and it stays the way it is with that cap on there, she is absolutely correct. Businesses will not want to go there, and you're guaranteeing that they will not move to those areas of our state that need it the most. Members, we have 28 counties out there that are struggling and need our help. Does this guarantee that they're going to have the help they need? No. But it at least helps get them in the game. I urge an aye vote.
Seeing no further discussion, the question for the House is the passage of the Del Grosso amendment to the report of the committee whole. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine and members proceed to vote. Representative May. Close the machine. With 32 aye votes, 33 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, the Del Grosso amendment to the report of the committee whole is lost. There are no further amendments at the desk. Mr. Kohler, please open the machine, and members proceed to vote on adoption of the report of the committee of the whole. Representatives Buck and Buckner. Close the machine. With 65 aye votes, 0 no votes, 0 excused, and 0 absent, the report of the committee whole is adopted. Announcements and introductions. Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank everyone for the great debate today. We did miss a great school group from Twin Peaks Charter Academy and their wonderful teacher, Carol Austin, and so if we could just clap for them as they're waving and leaving. We'll be leaving too soon.
Representative Ryden.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee members, we will be changing the order of the bills presented today. We will begin with House Bill 1141 with Representative Coram. Second will be House Bill 1197 with Representative Szabo, and third will be House Bill 1198 with Representative Everett. Thank you.
Representative Mitch Bush.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to announce, for those of you that didn't see it over the weekend, that one of my constituents, Michaela Schifrin, won the gold medal for the United States of America in the slalom.
Representative Court.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm coming down here with my House Services Chair hat on. All of you got this memo today from your House Services Committee. This is about how the space around the gallery, chamber is used. Please pay attention to this. It's very important that we are respectful of each other's requests for this space and that we appreciate the hard work our sergeants do to accommodate us. So please pay attention to this. Thank you.
Representative Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think they're not quite in the gallery yet, but members, would you please offer a warm welcome, a round of applause for the kids from Parker Core Knowledge Charter School in Parker, Colorado.
Any further announcements or introductions? Seeing none, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House stand in recess until 1 p.m. this afternoon, at which point we will adjourn until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Seeing no objection, the House will stand in recess till 1 p.m. today.